Hello, everyone. My name is Chloe Mayhew, and first of all, I'd like to thank you all so much for coming out tonight for this customer service workshop. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come listen to me talk to you on a Friday night. So, tonight, like I said, we're going to be talking about customer service, but we're going to be talking about it from probably a different perspective than what you're used to. We're going to be talking about customer service from a communication theory perspective, specifically from a expectancy violations theory perspective. So, you may be asking yourself, well, what is expectancy violations theory? Well, expectancy violations theory, according to the Encyclopedia of Communication Theory, was created to explain, to understand, to kind of predict why people engage in certain unexpected communication behavior. Um, Now, this theory was originally created to explain why people make proxemic violations. Now, proxemics is the study of space. Now, it's not, the stars and the moon and the sun and all that, but it's your space, physical space, like your personal space, your personal bubble. And this comes to us from the Sage Handbook of Interpersonal Communication. So, a lot of times when people hear the word violation, they think, oh, negative. No, violations are bad. We don't like violations, so let's do our best not to, violate anything. Well, yes, violations can be bad. They can be negative. But violations, especially in this situation, can also be positive, which we'll touch on just a little bit more in the future. So, okay, this is called expectancy violations theory. Well, what expectations do we have? What are the expectations? So everyone has expectations for different situations. We have very specific expectations, but we also have general expectations. And some of our general expectations in every situation, um, which comes to us from nonverbal expectancy violation, model elaboration, and application to immediacy behaviors. Three of our expectations are that we stand a good distance away when we're speaking to other people. Now, by a good distance away, I mean approximately 2 to 4 feet. Um, I'm one of those people who likes my personal space. I don't want someone standing right next to me when I'm speaking to them. I don't need to smell what they had for breakfast that morning. But we also don't want to have to carry on a conversation with someone who's 200 yards away. That's really difficult as well. So that's why we say the 2 to 4 feet. So we still keep our personal space, but we're also close enough where we can have a quieter conversation if we wanted to. Another expectation in general that we have is to be polite and that people are polite to us. Saying yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, please, thank you, things like that. There's a reason why young children are taught to say please and thank you from such a young age. They're very important. They're things that we'll use the rest of our lives. And then finally, one of our expectations is not to be too loud, but also not to be too quiet. I know I've been around people who are very loud talkers, but I've also been around people that you have to strain and listen hard to hear. So just talk in a normal inside voice so that you're not too loud, you're not too soft. Okay, so those are some of our general expectations, but what about specific expectations? I'll give you two instances. One is a ball game, and then one is a wedding ceremony. Now, for the ball game, I'm a huge sports fan, so I love going to ball games. And, when I'm going to a game, there's some expectations that I have. One, I expect it to be loud. I expect people to be cheering and jumping up and down, or booing, or yelling at the referees or the umpires. Um, Maybe if their team's doing well, I expect people to be high-fiving and hugging and really excited. Whereas if I go to a wedding ceremony, I expect everyone to be quiet and very respectful, to listen, to pay attention, to have their cell phones off or on silent, um, to stand when the bride comes down the aisle. Now, those are my expectations for a wedding ceremony based on my culture. Now, expectations are definitely cultural. Now, what I expect for a wedding in America may be very different than what someone in China or someone in India or even Europe may expect for a wedding. Okay, so these are all fine and well, but how do they apply to you? How do they apply to customer service? Well, what are some expectations that your customers have? I just came up with kind of a general list. A lot of times, customers expect that there are restrooms available in a store. I know when I go into a store, that's something I expect. People expect to be greeted. It doesn't have to be some long drawn out, oh my goodness, it's amazing to see you, how have you been? No, it can just be, hey, how are you doing? Thanks for coming in today. Customers expect to be respected. Um, being respectful is something we should do every single day to everyone with whom we come in contact. Being respectful is just, not ignoring them, noticing that they're there, and it goes back to being greeted. You know, be thankful they're there, because without them, there wouldn't be a store, you wouldn't have a job. Customers pay your paycheck. Um, Customers expect to be helped. If I come in here looking for a box of Cheez-Its, I don't want you to just say, oh yeah, it's over there with the other chips. No, I want you to say, oh, it's over on aisle 14, just right past the potato chips. If you get to the dog food aisle, you've gone a little too far. That's something simple, but it helped me. It helped me know exactly, okay, aisle 14, near potato chips. Okay, I'm helped. People expect to be given time to browse. I am one of those people that when I go into a store, I don't mind them speaking to me. I'd actually like them to speak to me, but I don't want the salesperson staying right there on me the whole time. That's an irritation. Let me have time to browse. Say, hey, my name's Chloe. If you need anything, I'll be just right over there. Just holler out my name, and I'll be there. And then people expect to have any conflicts that they have to be resolved then. So we'll actually touch on conflicts here in a little while. So we know kind of what our customers expect. So how should we speak to them? Now, something that I struggle with and that I have to work on, and I think a lot of people struggle with, is thinking before we speak. That is so important. And like I said, I'm going to mention complaints. That's a great way to alleviate complaints. Don't say the first thing that pops into your head. Don't just blurt out whatever's in your mind. Think. Take a second. Okay, figure out, okay, what's the best way to say this? What's the best way to answer this? Okay, so she said that. How can I do this so she understands what I'm saying, but I'm not being rude? Just think about it. Just take a second and think about it. Be respectful. If someone's yelling at you, that doesn't give you a right to yell at them. As difficult as it may be respectful. And do not swear. Johnson and Lewis wrote an article entitled Perceptions of Swearing in the Workplace, an Expectancy Violations Theory Perspective. And this article really discussed how you should really get to know the culture of your work environment to understand whether or not it would be appropriate for you to swear or use any possibly controversial words that may offend some in the workplace. So, when you're just with your coworkers, it's one thing, but and that really applies. But when you're in front of the customers, when you're really being the face of that organization, it really is not acceptable because some customers may not have a problem at all. They may be completely fine, doesn't bother them. However, some customers may be very offended, and it actually could mean the difference between losing or keeping a customer. What you say can definitely affect whether that customer comes back. So, we've talked about how we should talk to customers. We've talked about their expectations. Now, let's talk about something that's not so fun, and that's complaints. Dealing with complaints is not fun. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It's not exciting. You don't like to do it, but anyone who works with the public, anyone who works with customers, is going to have to deal with it at some point or another. Micah Solomon wrote a very interesting article entitled 10 Trending Changes in Customer and Customer Service Expectations on Forbes' website. And it really did. It had 10 different changes to customer service. Now, we're not going to go through all 10, but there was one specifically that could be very applicable here, and it deals with dealing with complaints. And Micah writes about listening carefully. That's one of the first things to do with dealing with complaints. You do not want to make someone who's complaining even more aggravated by having them completely repeat their story because you weren't listening. Listen to the whole thing. Even if you're pretty sure they're wrong, listen, because you need to tell your boss what happened. Go above and beyond. If possible, go above and beyond. Exceed their expectations. Violate their expectations in a positive way. Let's say I was still back in the store looking for some Cheez-Its, and I was really aggravated this time because I couldn't find my Cheez-Its. I was mad. They were not where I thought they were going to be, and I come to you and say, oh my goodness, where are the Cheez-Its? This is getting ridiculous. I just need to buy some Cheez-Its, and I need to get home. Well, don't just tell me again. Don't just repeat to me again, okay, aisle 14 near the potato chips. One great way to go above and beyond would say, Okay, I tell you what, why don't I walk you over there and we'll find them, and if they're not there, then you just hang tight and I'll go find some in the back. And walk me over there. That's a very simple, very small, easy way for you to go above and beyond. It's not that difficult. It's not going to take much of your time, but go above and beyond if you can. And respond quickly. Um, it's very irritating when you have a complaint and it takes someone forever to solve it. So there's four other ways that we can deal with complaints, and that comes to us from Vulcan and Daly's article, Organizational Responses to Consumer Complaints, and an examination of effective remediation tactics. And that is, don't make excuses. That's very irritating. No one likes to hear excuses. If it's your fault, take the blame. Say, wow, I dropped the ball there. I accept full responsibility. That was my fault. And then apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry is very important, and that can definitely help to alleviate customers' frustrations, their complaints, their irritations, and it can give them a better attitude um, about your store. And I said this a lot today, and I'll say it forever and ever: be respectful. Just because someone is very angry, that doesn't give you an excuse to be disrespectful. We should always be respectful. Even if we are 100% sure that the customer is wrong, that they may have the facts incorrectly, that you know you're right, still be respectful and don't just tell them, oh, you're wrong, this is ridiculous, you need to leave. No, be respectful. So, my challenge to you all today, let's go violate people's expectations in a positive way. Thank you all so much for coming out once again. I'm really excited to come into your stores and see how you're implementing some of these tactics here. So, all right, let's violate some expectations. Thank you. Bye-bye.